Motorsports today. I'm Eddie Kalegi. Well, our next guest has had quite the season in auto racing so far. Just last week at Ace Speedway, scoring the first top five finish for a female driver ever in the Cars Tour late model stock. She also made her ARCA East Series debut a few weeks ago at Rockingham Speedway, placing eighth for Rev Racing. She's Lanie Buice. Thanks for joining us here on Motorsports today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about it.
So let's start with the most recent race for you, a big moment where you started on the front row for the first time, led some laps, came home fourth place this past weekend in the Cars Tour race. What was working for you, especially in that race?
Yeah, we haven't had the best start to the car store season. Lee Pulley and Performance guys always bring a fast car to the racetrack, so we definitely just needed a breakthrough moment. Thankful for Full Submit Supply and their support and giving me the opportunity to race with Lee Pulley and Performance this year. We've qualified kind of mid-pack every race so far. Just haven't been able to break that barrier. Qualifying for the cars tour is all within a tenth, so from first to 20th is always very, very, very close. So we've kind of been on that 11th, 12th, 13th train lately. So we just needed a breakthrough, about a half a tenth. And thankfully this week we really nailed it in qualifying and actually almost close to my first career pole, which would have been incredible as well to add to the weekend. But we focused on staying up front and we actually led a few laps, which was really cool. I think if I could have stayed in the lead and held the lead for sure, we might have had a better shot at winning the race. But unfortunately, I lost the lead on a restart. We had lots of cautions in the race, so I was battling up front a lot, which is something I haven't been able to do quite in this series yet. So it was a huge learning curve. Being able to battle with these guys and race super hard with them was something that was new for me. So there was a lot of learning that was going on Saturday. So I'm super thankful for that. I've definitely got something to carry into North Wilkesboro.
Great stuff. So let's talk a little bit about your past, because when I was doing some research, I saw that your racing background actually started in your backyard with ATVs with your dad timing you. So could you tell us a little bit about how you first got interested in racing?
Yeah, everybody always asks about that, which I think is so fun. I loved ATVs growing up. We lived on big property. I'm from Georgia, so ATVs were always something that we had. And I would make my dad literally time me. He built a course in the backyard, and I would make him time me going around it. So I knew there was a passion from it. Thankfully, my dad owns a tree removal business in Georgia, so I rode with him one day to look at jobs, and I saw go-kart racing out the window, and somehow I connected it with what I was doing in the backyard, and I was extremely interested off the bat, and I begged him and begged him to take me into the go-kart shop, and finally he did. He gave in. I'm super relentless. I don't give up. I keep pushing. So he took me in that day, or I think it was a few days later, and I think we had a go-kart the next week. It was very quick. He fell in love with it, I fell in love with it, and then it just quickly escalated from there.
And something that I speak about with many drivers on the show is how racing, unlike some other sports, is such a family-oriented sport. And assuming for you, obviously, having the support of your dad and your family with you throughout your career has just been so important.
Yeah, that's the thing I feel like it's been hard for me growing in the sport is not having my family being in the sport. Now they are, of course, because I'm so interested in it, but they didn't know anything about it. My mom says it all the time. She's like, I have no idea what next steps we need to take. Like, thankful for some of the mentors that I have and the connections that I've made that have made it possible for me to keep on jumping to the next level because those connections have made that possible. But like my family can't help me really. I mean, other than the support and really helping me on the marketing side of things and helping me make those connections, there's only so much they can do. So definitely that's one of the hardest parts about the sport for sure.
So you started karting, eventually got into late models, and I saw in something when I was doing my research too, how you said you had never even like watched a NASCAR race until you were like 13 years old. So when did you first make the pivot, realizing this is not something you could just do as a hobby, maybe something that you can make a career out of?
Yeah, we were really competitive in go-kart racing. I traveled all across the Southeast. I won lots of races, was really competitive all the time. And I actually flipped the go-kart one weekend and broke my collarbone. And Mama tried to pull the plug. She really didn't want me to be in a race car anymore, especially go-kart racing. And so that was actually during COVID, which seems like forever ago, but it really wasn't that long ago, if you really think about it. Um, and so we looked into legend cars. We got into legend racing and we raced down at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Thursday Thunder won lots of races there. Was really competitive, and I think that was where my passion really came into it. I loved go kart racing, but I was so young. I just didn't really understand what I was doing. To be honest, I didn't know. And then once I got into legend racing, it became more of a challenge. It became more of a mental and physical challenge because you can't just drive the race car. You have to actually be mentally prepared. And the all types of things tie into it. And it's difficult. It's hard racing. And so I think that was where my passion came from. I like to be challenged. I like to be pushed. I like to always be learning. I don't like to just be sitting comfortable. So I think once I got to legend racing and found that challenge and found like what I love to do is something that really pushed it even harder. And then obviously racing at Atlanta Motor Speedway and seeing the NASCAR come there, I think that was what really triggered it for me. And then also when you're so young and you're racing like that, you don't realize what it is. Like that type of world, the NASCAR world seems so out of touch, so out of reality, and just almost seems like it's fake. Not really, but it did at that time. It just seemed so far out of touch. So that's something that I always like to tell people is super neat about coming up. And now I'm at that level where I'm racing competitively against all these people that are well known and that I'm making a name for myself continuously week in and week out. So it's really neat coming up right now.
Yeah, and it's funny you make that point. Like from my perspective as a media member, like as growing up as a NASCAR fan, it felt like so unattainable, like it was some other world. And then when you get there, you're like, all right, well, it's kind of easy to fit in at the end of the day. But at least for you, you were able to break into that world this year, making your ARCA East Series debut with Rev Racing at Rockingham Speedway. Had a pretty good run, finished in eighth place. So how did that opportunity come about, and what was it like driving a stock car, not just in the car store, but in ARCA for the very first time?
Yeah, thankfully, back in 2023, I tried out for the combine for the NASCAR's development team, and I got accepted to the combine, and we did really well in the combine, and I got the opportunity to be on their team for 2024. So I ran late models last year for them, and Andres Perez. Delara and LeVar Scott were the ARCA drivers last year, and Andres moved up to trucks this year, so a spot opened up to run an ARCA car. And so me and my teammate Eloy are splitting the season this year to be prepared for whatever is next to come. But I'm just super thankful. I feel like a lot of people may take it for granted or maybe they don't, but I would never be able to do this if it wasn't for Rev Racing and Max Siegel and the whole team that worked so hard to give me this opportunity. It's incredible. I think about it every day about how I mean this sport is expensive and my parents can't do it. So the people that support me mean the world to me because I want to do this. I want to be competitive in a race car. I want to win races and I want to show people I deserve to be out there. But it doesn't happen unless those people are supporting you. So thankfully I have those guys behind me. But Rockingham was super surreal. It was a great experience. It I wish I would have finished a little bit better. I know eighth is pretty good, but I always strive to be better. So I qualified fifth. We had a really good qualifying lap, and we raced hard. I made a few mistakes throughout the race, and I think that cost us a good final finish there. But overall, it was a great weekend, and it was really good to learn. I'm actually racing Kansas this weekend, so I get to use some of the things I learned there, like side drafting and using the air and all the dirty air and how to stay out of all the dirty air and everything that I learned at Rockingham. I can kind of utilize a little bit better here at Kansas. So overall, it was a great weekend.
Yeah, and how excited are you for that opportunity? Of course, because driving a mile and a half, different speeds for the first time. What's that going to be like?
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. I'm very excited. I've watched lots of film from the past and obviously reached out to a few people and asked for some pointers, but I feel like it's gonna be different. It's not gonna be the same for sure, but I know you run a pretty close to the wall most of the time. So I think that's going to be the biggest difference for me. Obviously, it's a mile and a half, so maybe that's the biggest difference. There's a lot of big
Yeah.
differences, but I'm really excited.
So, in terms of the difference from pivoting from a Cars Tour late model to an ARCA car, of course, it's a different task. What was the thing that maybe surprised you most when you were first behind the wheel in race trim at Rockingham a couple weeks ago?
Definitely the speed, the sensation of speed is very different. I was ready for it, but again, you can only be so ready for it because you feel it for the first time when you go into turn three or turn one. So, it's definitely a big difference. I actually went back and raced the car store the next weekend after Rockingham. I went to Orange County, and everybody says Orange County, it feels like you're flying. I mean, it's the fastest 3/8. So, it it didn't feel that fast to me, and we laughed about it because Rockingham is insane, and the G-forces there are just so strong. So definitely it's a difference. It's a big difference. But I also didn't have a lot of people also ask like, what's the transition like going from the big cars, the ARCA cars, back to the late model, and there's not that big of a difference, thankfully. They're different, but you have to be able to kind of separate the two.
Yeah, I think that's the key there because there's some real differences between both, and they're both challenging, but they kind of have their own intricacies. But when you look at big picture with both ARCA and the Cars Tour, I think something that makes NASCAR and auto racing in general so special too is the amount of development opportunities that exist. So many feeder series, and for ARCA in general, getting a race at the same track that the Cup Series does that weekend. When you think of like minor league baseball or stuff, that doesn't happen where you actually get to use the same venues that the professionals are using. So, for you as a development driver, what kind of assets do both the Cars Tour and NASCAR's feeder system provide for you to just continue to get better at your craft?
It's huge. The opportunity to be able to race at the same track as these guys is something it brings a lot of positives and a lot of things that help as a driver. Like at Rockingham, for instance, we raced the same or the day after the truck. So we got to watch the truck race, which is really neat and it really helps you to learn as much as you can, especially with the new place with the new track coming back in. But places like Kansas where the Cup Series are running is also super cool. Is I feel like it helps us. It helps all of us drivers that are trying to come up. Obviously, a lot of eyes are usually on the development series, is like ARCA, and a lot of people are watching. So it's good for us to be able to be right in front of them so that they can see us do the thing, do it, and race and be competitive. And it really opens a lot of eyes, which I feel like is a great opportunity as someone who's coming up. And a sport's not easy, and I feel like a lot of people looking on the outside from like a fan standpoint, people think it's maybe a little bit more simple than it is, but this sport is not easy in any way. It brings so many challenges.
And Lainey, last question. You mentioned how you like to be challenged, so I'll put you on the spot. 5 years from right now, where do you want to see yourself in your professional career?
5 years, I see myself in Xfinity. I want to win, so I see myself having truck wins behind me, and being competitive up front. I don't want to stop there, so I want to keep going, but I definitely don't want to go too fast. I feel like there's nothing wrong with taking my time and being ready for it when an opportunity is presented. So, I definitely see myself in Xfinity in 5 years.
100%. Well, things have been rolling along well for you. Made your debut in ARCA last month. You're going to be back on the track at Kansas Speedway this weekend and racing full time in the Cars Tour as well. Lanie Buice, thanks for joining us here on Motorsports today, and best of luck this weekend.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated talking to you, and I hope to talk again soon.